Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of DATI Civic and Peace Education Audiovisual Series, Episode 8, Introduction to Liberian Democracy and Governance System and Structure, Part 2, Analyzing the Functions of the three separate but equal branches of the Liberian government. This is your presenter, Dr. Joseph Tomongalode Baba Senior, Executive Director and founder of Decanty Artists Theater Incorporated, commonly known as DATI, D-A-T-I. Welcome to this educative forum. And I pray that you will follow all of the different series that we are presenting to you, because they will empower you with wisdom and knowledge about how the government of Liberia runs and or how it should be run with respect to the fact that Liberia is a democratic republic. And we will explain that to you in a few seconds when we get into the actual lecture of the program. But once again, I want to say thank you for listening. And I also want to say thank you to all Liberians, especially our grassroots supporters, those who contribute towards this program, those who have made it possible for us to reach you through radio in Liberia to present this vital program, educational program, civic education and cultural awareness program to all Liberians and foreign residents of Liberia, because we would like for you to understand and also for us to establish a base upon which our democracy can thrive. Our democracy, our pursuit of justice, equality, and freedom, that all of these various and important critical, political, and socio-economic aspirations of the Liberian people can be achieved through the solid foundation of providing civic education for all Liberians. So welcome to this episode. Today we are focusing on the legislative branch of government. We are also analyzing the functions of the three separate but equal branches of the Liberian government. And under that theme, we are going to be focusing on the first branch, which is the legislative branch of the Liberian government. So please stay tuned. And also, once you have had the opportunity to listen to this episode during the course of the week of following week, I will appear live on Radio Avant and also hopefully on Radio Phoenix FM 104.7 in Harper City, where you can have the opportunity to ask questions regarding this program, because it is your program, the government is your government, and so you need to know exactly what your role is so that you can play an active part in the development of your own country. So let's get started. Civic education provides the opportunity to learn about our government, how it functions, and the roles citizens are required to play in the overall safety, well-being, and permanency of the Liberian society. So firstly, it is the responsibility of government to create an informed citizenry that it can partner with to run the day-to-day affairs of the state. In addition, it is also the responsibility of patriotic citizens to take ownership of of their destiny, not as observers or onlookers, but as forerunners and active participants of the decision-making processes that affect the lives of the citizens of the country. So here we are telling you that civic education will give you that knowledge and information that you need so that you can actively participate. And that is the responsibility of the government to educate its people on what it is doing, how it functions, so that they understand, so that there won't be any misunderstanding between the citizens and those who rule the citizens, because then they will have understood why certain decisions are being made, and also that once they understand, once the citizens understand, that they can cooperate with, the administration to make things better for everyone in the country. So also, when we discussed about the three separate but equal branches of government in episode 7, there were two fundamental facts that emerged in our discussion in episode 7 to describe the structure and system of the Liberian government. One, we said Liberia was founded as a democratic nation. As a democratic nation, what this means is that power is vested in the people of Liberia, not the so-called educated representatives and senators and the judges and chief justices, justices of the Supreme Court or the president, but the power in the country is vested in you, the people. What you decide is what is supposed to happen in the country, not what a handful of people decide, but what you decide. And in order for the handful of people who represent you to make a decision, they must also consult you. That's why sometimes, like for instance, when you want to make a change in the Constitution, any portion of the Constitution that you want to make a change of, when we were talking about dual citizenship, the people who are elected, who are officers, who are officials of government do not have that power for them to sit down and change any portion of the Constitution of Liberia without holding a referendum where the people gather and they decide what they want, what changes they want to make to that holy body of laws that bind all citizens of the country to obey and observe and respect. So no handful of people have the power to change any segment of the Constitution. If they change any segment of the Constitution without holding a referendum, that is illegal. It is illegal. And I know there were some attempts made before, and the outcry of the Liberian people made those who wanted to surreptitiously make changes in the Constitution, made them to stop. And I'm glad that it did, because no handful of people can make any changes in the Constitution of Liberia without the input of the people. Because as a democratic nation, the power is vested in the people of Liberia. And then also we said that we stated that Liberia is a republic. So if a country is, considered a republic, what does that mean? What it actually means, what it implies, is that the power of the Liberian people is divided into 3 separate but equal branches of government. That would be the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. Each separate branch of government carries out a specific function, or carries out specific functions that distinguish it from the others. Because of this, it's very important for citizens of Liberia to know how each branch functions, how the citizens can relate to each separate branch to get a maximum supports and services these branches are required to provide to the Liberian people in accordance with the Constitution of Liberia, and to make sure the system of checks and balances is actively enforced to yield the desired fruits of justice, peace, stability, and rule of law. Now, let me explain this, in simpler terms. Each separate branch of government carries out specific functions that distinguish it from the others. That's number one. There are three separate but equal branches of government, and each separate branch of government carries out specific functions that distinguish it from the others. So the function that the executive branch performs distinguishes it from the functions that the legislative branch of government performs. And it also distinguishes the legislative branch of government from the judicial branch of government, because its function is also different. And what are the functions? We're going to talk about them later on. But what we're trying to say is that it's very important for citizens of Liberia to know how each branch functions, how the citizens can relate to each separate branch to get the maximum supports and services these branches are required to provide for the Liberian people in accordance with the Constitution of Liberia. So each branch has a constitutional mandate to perform, and that constitutional mandate is directed towards providing services and support to the citizens of Liberia, in whom power is vested as a democratic society. And also those three separate branches were established based on Constitution, because our Constitution supports our democracy and it supports our Republican form of government. So each branch of the Liberian government has a constitutional obligation to the people of Liberia. For instance, the executive branch is to execute the laws that were made by the legislative branch. So in that case, if people committed crimes and they are not brought to justice, or they're not taken to the court system by the justice ministry or by the executive branch of government, that means that the executive branch of government is not performing in accordance with the Constitution of Liberia. And as citizens, you have a right to ask questions and to also take the executive branch to task. You have the right to do that. And how do you do that? Also means that since it's the executive branch that is not performing its task, and you want to raise, a complaint or submit a complaint, then that will have to go through the court system, the judicial branch of government, because now it requires for the judicial branch of government, its function is to interpret the law. So you would go before the judicial branch of government and say, look, the executive was supposed to execute this law that was provided, that if somebody steals public funds, they're supposed to be brought to justice. They're supposed to be taken to court to prove themselves guilty or not guilty. But we see that this is not being done. And the judicial branch of government will look into the matter, because why? They have the power to look into the matter, to oversee the activities of the executive branch, as the executive branch does have the same power to oversee activities of the judicial branch. So what that means is the checks and balances system That is also a mechanism that is created in the Constitution to make sure that no one branch of the three separate but equal branches of government is more powerful than the others. So that process is called checks and balances. Checks and balances. When the executive branch sees that the legislative branch is overstepping its bounds, as a law-making body, and it wants to execute laws instead of just making the laws, the executive branch has the right and the responsibility to take the legislative branch to task through the judicial branch to make sure that the law is properly interpreted so that the lawmakers know that they're only there to make laws and not to execute the laws. So we want to make sure that the separate branches, that you get the maximum supports and services these branches are required to provide for you, the Liberian people, in accordance with the Constitution of Liberia, and to make sure the system of checks and balances is actively enforced. Most of the time, the checks and balances are not enforced in Liberia because one branch of the government is more powerful than the other. And I gave you a typical example where, for instance, grand jury lawmakers were forcing among themselves and running every day to the executive mansion, to Mrs. Salif, to report one another and to say negative things about one another to the president, who is a member of the executive branch and is not a member of the legislative branch. And by doing that, those representatives and senators, whoever they were diminishing, they were submitting themselves to another branch of government that has equal power as they do. And unfortunately, that made the executive branch to be more powerful. So that now, instead of their standing their grounds as lawmakers with equal power as with the executive and the judicial branch, these legislators were going to the president and calling her ma and this and that and reporting one another to the president as though they were appointed officials of governments. So what the reason why I'm giving this example and stressing this point is because lawmakers need to understand that as lawmakers, they are not appointed officials of government, and they're not under the jurisdiction of the president. Lawmakers are in a separate branch all by itself, and they should maintain their dignity as lawmakers so that they can be respected. So the idea about the checks and balances is very important, because the example that I gave you about those grand jury lawmakers who kept going back and forth to the president to report one another and to seek favor, what they did was that they also breached the checks and balances system procedure, because now they're giving their power to the executive and making the executive to manipulate them. And you can see also that in that process, look at the kind of salaries that they designed for a post-war country, the type of salaries that they negotiated between the executive branch and the legislative branch. And before you know it, they're making thousands and thousands of hard currency. I'm not talking about Liberian money. If you're working for the government of Liberia, you should be proud to receive your pay, your salary in the currency of your country. not to demand that your salary be paid in hard currency that is higher than the value of your country's currency, and then the ordinary public servants, civil servants are paid in Liberian dollars. So that kind of creates another entire breach of the checks and balances, and also it also violates the constitutional rights of those who are being segregated again, who must receive local currency, while certain people are receiving foreign currency as as compensation for their services to the country. So it's very important, and that those kinds of things also create instability in the country, in the society. So the checks and balances system is very, very important. But today we are going to be concentrating on the legislative branch of government. And as I said, with respect to the three separate equal branches of government, they have separate responsibilities. The executive branch is to execute the laws, the legislative branch is to make the laws, and the judicial branch is to interpret the law. Today, we're going to be talking about those who make the laws. So episode 8 begins with basic information about the legislative branch of the Liberian government. Our aim is to help you understand how the legislative branch of government performs its functions in accordance with the Constitution of Liberia. Also, if any of the three branches of government is faulty in providing the services they are required to provide according to the supreme body of laws in Liberia, then what legal and peaceful course of action must Liberian voters take to get the required services they desire as taxpayers? That's something we're going to be discussing. Also, since the legislature deals with making laws, we want you to know how laws they make may affect or benefit you based on the devotion and patriotism of those you elect to represent you in both houses of the national legislature. So that is also very important. They go there, they make laws, and some of those laws that they make, contradict or contravene our cultural values. Some of the laws they make taking away lands from the culturally rich lands from people in different counties without respect to our culture and history. That is against the law. That is against the interest of the people that voted them to power, that voted them into the House of Senate or the House of Representatives. So those the laws that the people make, if they are not in conformity with the Constitution, and or if they're not legislated or made in the interest of the people have a right to take legal action, to go to the judicial branch of government and say, look, the legislative branch of government is overstepping its bounds, or they're not respecting the law, the Constitution, with respect to our heritage. They are trying to denigrate our culture. They're doing this, they're doing that to us. So you have the right and the power to do that. So that's why it's important for you to be provided civic education, so that in that case, you can always seek legal and peaceful means of seeking redress to your problems, whether they're individual problems or collective problems, tribal, ethnic problems, whatever they are. It's always good to pursue justice through the rule of law. So episode 8 begins with basic information about the legislative branch of the Liberian government. And our aim here is to help you understand how the legislative branch of government performs its functions in accordance with the Constitution of Liberia. And also, if any of the three branches of government is faulty in providing the services they are required to provide according to the supreme body of laws in Liberia, Then what legal and peaceful course of action must Liberian voters take to get the required services they desire as taxpayers? Also, since the legislature deals with making laws, we want you to know how laws may affect or benefit you based on the devotion and patriotism of those you elect to represent you in both houses of the national legislature. Hence, first, we want to engage you in a discussion regarding why we make laws in society and why we have check and balances among the three separate but equal branches of government in Liberia. That's very important. Why do we make laws? Now listen to this. Liberia was established on the principles of rule of law and checks and balances. Liberia was established on the principles of rule of law and checks and balances. What do I mean by that? Simply put, rule of law means no one is above the law. So Liberia was established as a democratic republic in which no one is above the law. But is that the case right now in Liberia? Certainly not. But then that shows that we're not following the laws of the land. We're not adhering to the Constitution. We're not honoring the Constitution. We're not abiding by the Constitution when somebody can kill another citizen and walk freely, and at the same time be elected into elected positions in government, can make decisions and make laws and or interpret the law and or execute the law. That sort of thing is what is Liberia is presently entangled in. And we must do everything we can within our power as the people in whom power is vested in the Democratic Republic of Liberia to make sure that we get back to the rule of law, that no one should be above the law, and that those who have breached the law, or those who breach the law, must also always face the law. They face the consequences of their actions. So Liberia was established on the principles of rule of law and checks and balances. Now, checks and balances is a process by which each branch of the Liberian government shares equal rights and the ability to oversee the other branches to make sure that no one branch of the Liberian government is more powerful than the other two branches. Now, for you in Liberia, observing what you have seen over the past, I don't know, 40 years or whatever it is, would you say that the three branches of government of the Republic of Liberia have equal power? And or would you say that the executive branch has been very, very predominant? And if that's the case, where one branch of government is predominant over the other two branches of government, that means that there's a breach of Constitution, the breach of the checks and balances system, and that has to be rectified. Lawmakers must maintain their dignity, members of the judiciary must maintain their dignity, and members of the executive branch of government must maintain their dignity, and no one branch of government should override the other branches of government according to our Constitution and the principles upon which Liberia was established. Against this backdrop, Liberian democracy assures all Liberians that no one is above the law and that we can govern ourselves peacefully in accordance with the laws of the land, instead of taking the law in our own hands. Civic education provides us the tools to help maintain peace and rule of law in our country. So it provides that tool. All the things that I've just told you, if you listen to them very keenly, they should be able to help you and to open up your mind regarding what your rights and privileges are and what options you have, legal, constitutional options you have to seek redress when some of these things are not done properly. Checks and balances as a constitutional provision. So checks and balances is provided by the Constitution. So also to enjoy sustainable peace and maintain decorum in our society, the Constitution makes provisions to enforce active checks and balances among the three separate but equal branches of the Liberian government. This is done to ensure that no branch is more powerful than the others, and that the electorate play an active role in the oversight responsibilities of the three branches of government as taxpayers and major stakeholders. So as taxpayers and major stakeholders, if you see that your representatives are succumbing too much to the executive branch, that they're not representing you, they're not speaking on your behalf, they're not advocating for you, but they're just saying yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, you know, to the executive branch and all of that, then there's a problem. There is a problem, because then your rights as citizens and also your power that's vested in you or as the key stakeholders and as taxpayers and voters, your power is being diminished, because the people that are supposed to stand up and speak for you, they have now succumbed to another branch of the government, and they're not in a position to speak for you. And if they don't speak for you, then why are they in the House? Why are they in the House of Representatives? Why are they in the House of Senate? So if the people are not speaking for you when they're supposed to be speaking for you, it's your responsibility for you to remove them, because you got the power, you voted for them, they had to come to you to be elected to hold that position. So if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, there's no need for you to vote for them again and or to put them back to power, because then you're suffering yourself. So all this thing about, oh, we're suffering, oh, we're doing this, oh, this one happening to us, oh, no food, oh, no jobs, oh, bad roads, oh, when people are sick, if they don't have money to go to Ghana, then they cannot get treatment, or all those things that you're talking about, those things can be stopped immediately if you decide, you, the people in whom the power is vested, if you decide that, look, enough is enough, we're not having this anymore, you leave, you know, or we institute, what's that, an impeachment proceeding in order that all those things, that there are opportunities and options in the Constitution for you to seek redress peacefully, without any kind of violence, without any kind of bloodshed. But you need to know exactly how to do it. And civic education provides that opportunity for you to learn these things. Most of you have also requested that you pray that these things are written and that I publish them so that they can be available, you know, in our schools and in the country. And indeed, that's what I'm doing. All of what I'm delivering to you, they are written down. They hopefully, when I get some funding, I will definitely publish them so that we can hopefully submit them to the Ministry of Education in Liberia for their approval. And once it's approved, then it can be used as textbooks, you know, in the schools. So we are working on that. Continue to give us your support and to pray for us. And hopefully we will get there one of these fine days. But let's continue with our lecture on civic education. So the provision in the Constitution gives citizens the opportunity to enforce rule of law and checks and balances by critically analyzing the Liberian government system and structure to develop a better understanding and appreciation of Liberian democracy. Liberian democracy, what is Liberian democracy? You know, we said Liberian democracy, you know, invests the power in the people, and it goes by majority rule as well, you know, because it's in the people. But if people have conflicting, you know, ideas, and you want to decide which idea to choose, then you must choose the idea of those who are in the majority. So that's also another aspect of democracy that I want you to understand, that it goes by the majority. And sometimes the majority may not always be right. You know, that's the downside of democracy. But yet, you know, is good, because if you want something to happen in the country, then it's a change to take place. It's your responsibility, you know, to use your democratic knowledge and your skills to convince people, so that you can have more people on your side, not to force with people because they don't agree with what you're saying, because of what you think, because of what you believe in. Everybody has his own unique belief. So there's no need to force with you because they're not members of your party, or they're not supporting your candidate. No, your responsibility is to use your democratic skills to convince people, to use words, not to use force, but to use words to convince people that, oh, look, I'm taking this side because I feel that this person will do this, and then I have proof. You know, you want to convince people. You don't want to force with people. People think that forcing with people and talking down on people will win them, you know, the position that they're vying for. No, it doesn't go like that. You must be civil. You must be respectful. Your language that you choose to talk to other people who don't share the same views that you share must be friendly and cordial, so that the person will think it over. You know, it is a matter of convincing people, not forcing with people. So we want to make that. So you, the people, have the right to enforce rule of law. If you feel that someone is running around the place thinking that he's above the law, that he can do anything he wants to do, he's untouchable, it's your responsibility as people, because the power is vested. You say, look, we cannot have this here. Nobody can just get up and just go around killing our people, and we just sit down and say, oh, the person that so and so person, this and that. That's nonsense. That's lawlessness. Anybody can get up and do it. So if everybody starts going around doing that, you know, then you know that you won't have rule of law in the country. So it's a responsibility as citizens to make sure that rule of law exists. The legislative branch of the Liberian government. The legislative branch of the Liberian government is the first branch of the Liberian government. We say it's the first branch because, you know, we said that Liberia was established on the principles of rule of law and checks and balances. So the first thing is rule of law, and we say rule of law means that no one is above the law. So in order for us to even do anything in the country, for the country to be established, we had to formulate a constitution. We had to formulate laws first, because that's the only way. That was how man became more civilized. Man became civilized when he decided to live in a community, not as a fool gatherer or as a wanderer. Man used to wander all in the forest, and they were not stable. They didn't have a stable location where they lived, and all of that. They never built towns and villages. Wherever they might reach, wherever whenever it got dark, wherever they were, they would stay there. Whether it was under a tree or, you know, in a valley, whatever it was, they would stay there. But when men began to live in communities, to construct houses, shelters, and all of that, then there was a need now for people to establish some rules and regulations and laws and all of that. So that's why the legislative branch is considered the first branch of the Liberian government and of any democratic, you know, Republican nation, because first of all, you must have laws by which those who are citizens of the country must abide. So the legislative branch is the first branch of the Liberian government. It is the wing of government that focuses on making laws to ensure the safety, well-being, and permanency of all Liberians. Now, when we look at our legislative branch of government, Is it making laws to ensure the safety, well-being, and permanency of all Liberians? That is something, that's a question that you need to answer yourselves. You need to look around you and see if those who are in the legislature, if they are making laws to ensure your safety, well-being, and permanency. Then you can ask yourself a question, because recently there was some publication regarding Burkinabes, passing through the porous borders of Liberia, between Liberia and the Ivory Coast, and they have thousands of them undocumented, aliens, foreigners coming into Liberia. They're undocumented. Yes, there is a protocol, West African protocol of free movement of people and all of that, but the free movement of people must be protected. It must be organized. It must be documented. When you leave one country to come to the other country, you must present your passport, your information to the visiting country, the authorities of the visiting country, so that they may know how to accommodate you, how to take good care of you while you are in while you are in the jurisdiction of the Liberian, the Liberian society. So it's important. So are they making those? So what are the laws, for instance, that Liberian lawmakers are making to control the large influx of undocumented foreigners coming into Liberia, especially in a specific area of Liberia near the border between the Ivory Coast and Liberia? And we also know that as Liberians, we know that the 1989, rebel incursion came from the Liberian Ivorian border. So now to see that after we've had all of these atrocities in Liberia, all our borders and things are kind of porous, to see that people are coming in, undocumented, that should raise the concern of the lawmakers to legislate some laws that will control that movement, of undocumented movement of foreigners into a certain region of the country. So these are the things that we're talking about. So the legislative branch of government makes the laws, that are supposed to ensure our safety, our permanency, and happiness, and all of that. Now, so the Constitution makes provisions to enforce active checks and balances among the three separate or equal branches of the Liberian government. And this is done to ensure that no branch is more powerful than the others, and that electorate play an active role in the oversight responsibilities of the three branches of government as taxpayers and major stakeholders. Consequently, the provision gives citizens the opportunity to enforce rule of law and checks and balances by critically analyzing the Liberian government system and structure to develop a better understanding and appreciation of Liberian democracy. We'll talk about that. The people of Liberia. Okay, so the legislative branch is the first branch of government. It is the one of government that focuses on making laws, as we said, and both houses of the national legislature make laws, but they have slightly different responsibilities that were described in episode 7. Like what I said, executive branch makes laws, executive branch executes the law, legislative branch makes the law, and judicial branch interprets the law. But also in the legislature, it's a bicameral legislature. When we say bicameral, we mean that there are two houses, two distinct, unique houses in the legislature. In the legislature, there are two houses: the House of Representatives, which is the lower house, is called the lower house or the House of Representatives, And you have the upper house, which is the House of Senate. So for instance, the lower house or House of Representatives is responsible to scrutinize the functions of government, to pass bills, to initiate impeachment proceedings, etc. That is House of Representatives. So if you want to impeach anybody, any official, whether it's the president, the chief justice, or justice, associate justice, or judge, or whatever it is, the House of Representatives will be the place where the impeachment proceedings will initiate from. They will initiate that, they will initiate it, and then it will go to the Senate. The upper house or House of Senate confirms appointments made by the president of Liberia. It is also responsible to try the president, vice president, judges, etc. In addition, members of the Liberian legislature are elected by the electorate, the citizens of the people of the citizens or the people of Liberia in whom power is vested. So to become a member of the House, of the legislature, you must be elected by the people. It's not an appointment position. That's what I was saying earlier, that representatives and senators must realize their position and their worth as representatives of the people in whom power is vested. The people in whom power is vested, in turn, vested that power in the senators and the representatives to represent them. So to succumb to another branch of government and neglect your responsibility to speak and advocate for the people that elected you is a violation of the Constitution. And it's also worthy of impeachment, proceedings, and or for the people to ask you to resign if you're not going to represent them, because too many people in Liberia, too many districts and people are underrepresented. There are too many things going on in different parts of the country where their representatives are sitting right there in Monrovia. They don't have any contacts with the people that elected them. They don't go to see what the people want. And even if they knew what the people want, they don't pursue it, in the national legislature to make sure that what the people need, that they can get. Like for instance, look at the road situation in the country. Most of the senators and representatives are native Liberians from the hinterland of Liberia. To go to the places where they come from, or it takes you days and sometimes weeks during the rainy season and all of that. These are people that make thousands of United States dollars in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. What have they done over the past 40 years now since the first indigenous Liberian took over? Past 40 years. This year makes it for 42 years since they had the coup. Since native people started coming into power, I know that in between there they have Salif and Charles Taylor, but what I'm asking is that the majority of the people nowadays are indigenous Liberians that come from the hinterland, come from these places. They go, they see the rules like that. What kind of representation are they giving the people? The huge amount of money they make are the monies that the Liberian government needs to pave those roads, to clean those roads, to build better hospitals and clinics, to provide facilities for the hospitals, the schools, and all of that. But look how much money they pay them, how much money they get, and why they're being paid so much like that. What kind of work are they doing so much that other people are not doing, that they're getting so much money like that? Those are things that we need to look into, and civic education provides that opportunity for you. The upper house of Senate does the confirmation. So you know that confirmation hearing, that's why every time when the president appoints anyone, the person first of all has to go before the Senate for confirmation hearing, because that's part of the constitutional duty of the the the, the House or Senate. Lawmakers are answerable to the Liberian electorate. So in other words, if they are elected by the Liberian people, they are also answerable to the electorate. They are not bosses of the people who elected them. Instead, legislators should be servants and representatives of the Liberian people that voted them into power. In this respect, the electorate also have constitutional powers to request the resignation or impeachment of the elected officials in accordance with the Constitution of Liberia if they don't perform their legislative duties, or correctly. Therefore, the very first step Liberian citizens must take when studying civics is to study and learn some strategic sections in the Constitution of Liberia that pertain to their inalienable and basic human rights and freedoms as citizens of Liberia. So also it's important for the Constitution of Liberia, just a summary of it, and especially specific areas where they talk about the powers of the people, how you can seek redress, legal redress, peaceful redress, and all those kinds of things. They need to be taught in the schools, period. They need to be taught. People need to know their rights and all of that so they can stop behaving like you're a stranger in your own country. Right now, most Liberians are strangers in their own countries. They don't know what the country is all about. They don't know how it was established. They don't know what direction it's taking, all of that. And those kinds of things are not good, if you want to develop a nation. If you want to develop a nation, the citizens must be very, very informed. Also, while I'm going on with the lecture, I just want to recognize one of my, members, deputy artist members was on earlier, but I see that he's off now. I just wanted to recognize Cyrus Blinwan. He was on earlier, but now I see that he's not on again. But when he comes back on, I definitely will put him on for him to say a few words. So let's continue with lawmaking as a sacred duty. So another thing that I want to stress, to Liberian lawmakers is that when you are elected as a lawmaker, as a legislator, I want you to understand that it is a sacred duty. It's a sacred duty. Those laws that you are making, these laws can break the country or they can make the country. Those laws you are making can break your people and they can make your people. So when you have the opportunity to go into the honorable, that's why they call it the honorable House of, Senate, the honorable House of Representatives, the honorable legislature of the country. Because you must go there with love for your country, love for your people, to protect them, to legislate laws that will bring about peace and unity among the people. And not just only make laws that interest you or that support your whims and your caprices, and or laws that are in favor of investors that you are lobbying for. So when you begin to go in that direction where you are making laws because you want to please investors, because you have a share in that investment, as some lawmakers have done, over time, then it's unconstitutional. And if the people find out that you are making laws or you are encouraging different businesses and entities to come in the country to exploit your people, so that they don't get the kind of benefits that they need to get, then of course, that's unconstitutional, and it needs to be addressed. Okay, Cyrus, I want you to unmute yourself so that you can be able to say hi to our people. Hello, Cyrus, are you there? All right, so we continue anyway. So as I was saying, lawmaking is a sacred duty. The function of a lawmaker is a sacred duty. It involves the legislation of laws that bind all citizens to obey the laws to ensure safety, rule of law, and good governance in Liberia. Therefore, those involved or elected to serve as lawmakers must be conscious of their sacred duties as legislators. Furthermore, lawmakers must be considerate in making laws and to make sure the priorities of their constituents are highlighted above their selfish agendas when legislating laws. In no way must Liberian lawmakers pass laws that are not focused on the people they represent, but on themselves. This is the reason a very good exercise of checks and balances would have prevented one branch of government using its constitutional powers to override the equal rights of the other two branches of government. Like, for instance, with the kind of laws that they passed. Lawmakers, the legislative branch of government, okay, we talked about that. And then we said lawmakers are answerable to the Liberian people. And then we said lawmaking is a sacred duty. And then now we're saying lawmakers must reside in their constituencies. That also is very important. We see that over and over, especially before 1964, before those regions of Liberia, hinterland of Liberia, Grand Chile, Nimba, Bond, and Lofa, before they were declared counties, they had people representing them in the House of Representatives and the House of Senate that did not live there. And even up to today's day, there are some lawmakers in Liberia that don't have homes in the counties that they represent. Most of the time they reside in Monrovia. They hardly go to hold town hall meetings with their constituents and all of that. The law provides that you must reside in the district you represent. And at the end of each legislative session, they must return to their districts to brief their constituents about laws that were passed and or to explain how said laws might benefit or adversely affect Liberian voters who elected them to office. Furthermore, Liberian lawmakers must own real property value at 25,000 in the districts they serve as required by law. Voters in your constituency must not only see you when the next election season approaches, so that they may not be estranged estranged constituents. That also is very important. Important with respect to residency and how you represent the people. All political candidates, lawmakers vying for legislative position must present their platforms to electorates. Now that is also very important. It's very, very important that it's very important for members of the legislature or any government official who is vying for any political office for them to present their platforms. Now, what do we mean by platforms? Platform, Platform, is a word, a political term that means, what do you have to offer? What do you want to be? You want to be president. Okay, if you want to be president, what is it that you want to offer the Liberian people, the people that you want to rule? What is it that you want to do for them? The things that you want to do for them, that you are going to explain to them, is what is called a platform. But how many Liberian politicians and those who ran for public office, how many of them have come up to you to say, look, this is what I want to do for the country, this is what I want to do for the district? How many of them have shown you their platforms before? Many Liberian voters and many Liberian voters just vote because, oh, I like the person, oh, this person is my relative, or this person is, yeah, I mean, he can spend money, he can do this and do that. So as a result, when these people, when they don't present any platform to you before you elect them, after they are elected, they are not answerable to you, because you never came to any agreement that, oh, if you elect me, I will build a hospital for you. If I came to you and said, if you elect me, I will build a hospital for you in PHP, and I got elected, then you have an expectation that, Dr. Baba said that if he were elected as our representative or a senator for our district, he would build a hospital, and or that we would build a hospital, because the politician does not have that money, but he can use his influence and ably, represent you in the legislature to make sure that the law is passed, supporting that particular bill that will generate the funds to build a hospital for the district. So then you have an expectation. But many Liberian voters and many Liberian voters in different districts of the country don't have anything to hold their representatives and senators answerable to, because in the first place, the people never provided any platforms for them. So the idea of a platform is very important. If anybody comes to you and says that, oh, I want to run to be representative, or I want to be a senator, I need your support, ask the person, what are you going to do in return for me and or for our people and or for the people in the district? Ask the person that question. And if he tells you that he's going to do X, Y, and Z, mark it down. Mark it down. If you want to give them the opportunity, you may vote for them, but if they succeed, you have the right to hold them accountable. Hold them accountable for what they said they were going to do. And if they don't do it, then you don't put them back. Because that's how you are being fooled. That's why your suffering is prolonged, because people make false promises, they don't keep them, and then the next time around, when they need your vote again, they come to you and give you a few dollars and a few bags of rice, and you go and you sell yourself, you sell your freedom. That's your freedom there. That's your power. That's the power you have. The power that you, the people, have is your right to vote. And that one vote that you cast can make a difference in the lives of millions of Liberians and in the development of the country. So, as I said, unfortunately, many politicians in Liberia do not present platforms to the electorate. As a result, the Liberian voters are unable to hold them accountable when they are elected, and shall have served for many years without any benefit to the people that elected them to office. Against this backdrop, most Liberian politicians rely on nepotism, tribal and family connections to earn votes. It is forbidden to bribe voters with money, bags of rice, and material goods in return for the people's votes. Overall, the rapport between voters and those they elect, must be cordial and free of the abuse of legislative powers and to intimidate electorates during or after elections season. So sometimes, people want to use their power to 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 make you scared. You don't vote for me, you will see. Do this and do that. You got no right. Nobody has any right to force you to say anything. I mean, to vote for them. If you don't want to vote for them, there shouldn't be anything like that. Liberian lawmakers must be considerate in their constituents. They must be considerate of their constituents when passing laws. Now, this is very important. Listen to this. In passing laws, Liberian lawmakers must be sensitive to the needs of their constituents. How sensitive are Liberian lawmakers to the needs of Liberians wanting good, pliable highways to travel to, to travel by, to travel from Monrovia to Grand Gita, to Grand Cru, to Sino, to Maryland, without, passing through mud, without pushing cars for days and all of that. How long must that take for Liberian lawmakers to come up with a law that will really be enforced by the executive branch to make sure that those needs, critical needs, are met? What laws are the Liberian legislature passing, regarding, good health care for the people of Liberia? And what laws are they passing to prohibit big shots, people who make thousands of dollars from jumping in a plane and going to next door African country for health care, when the majority of their constituents cannot afford to do that? So what laws are they passing to make sure that the good hospitals and things that they go to when they are sick in foreign lands, that those good hospitals are also available for the people in Liberia? That's also something, to talk about. Hello, Cyrus, you there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me one of Dati's peace advocates in training. He has completed his studies and training, actually. Unfortunately, because of the bad road condition and because of conflict schedule at the time when we were doing the induction ceremony of the cohort 2 members of Dati, statesman Cyrus Blinwan was unable to travel to Maryland for his induction, but he completed all of his trainings and all of that, and hopefully we look forward to inducting him into the peace advocate, group of Decorative Artists Theater. Other than that, he's also very, very supportive of promoting peace and reconciliation in Liberia. And tonight, I extended an invitation to any one of them to come up, to be with me tonight as I deliver this lecture on the Liberian legislative system, and fortunately we have him with us. So welcome, Cyrus. How are you?
I'm good, Doc.
Good, very good. Thank you so much for honoring the invitation and for coming on. I don't know if you've been listening for some time now, but we're talking about the Liberian legislative system. We're talking about the 3 separate but equal branches of government. But tonight we are focusing on the legislative branch of the Liberian government. And right now I'm on how it is important for Liberian lawmakers to be considerate of their constituents when they're passing laws. So one of the questions that and it is good that you're on, because one of the things that I was saying was that we have lawmakers that make all this money and all of that. They see that the roads and things, the highways are so bad, for one of which reason, you were unable to travel, apart from your school schedule and all of that. Other people were unable to travel because of that. And it's been an age-old problem, in the place. So we're saying that the laws that they are passing, what kind of laws are they passing, you know, in Liberia that we have these things, you know, we have these hindrances to our development and growth, but yet nothing is being you know, addressed. But by the same token, lawmakers make the highest salaries, you know, in Liberia. And even on the continent itself, well, most of the countries that are more advanced than our country, our lawmakers make more money than these people do, and they have benefits and all of that. So that's what we're talking about today. So we're talking about the passing of laws, you know, but they must be considerate of the people. You're passing laws for you to make to have a $30,000 US bonus, but you're not thinking about where the money will come from to pave the road from Ganta to Harper. You know, so and this is where the people, this is where the people come in. This is where the power of the people come in. That if you see something like this going on, you got to put a check to it. Say, excuse me, why are you making all that money? And when some of that money could go to build our hospitals, to furnish our hospitals, to staff our schools, and to do other things. People have the right to ask those questions, because that's according to our constitution and the way how Liberia is established. It provides those things in the constitution with respect to checks and balances, and also rule of law, that nobody's above the law to do it. And part of my concern comes from a passage that I read on the All Africa Online publication of the New Dawn article written by S. Conway, entitled Liberian lawmakers are eating the country's wealth. Wait, did you see that article before, or Cyrus?
Not really that.
Okay, now that article signals the need to have an effective checks and balances system. Now, when I talk about checks and balances, that's how the Constitution, you know, the Constitution makes a provision to make sure that no branch of government is more powerful than the other. There are three branches: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. They all have equal power. They all have equal power. They should have equal power, but that's not the way it is in reality anyway. Do you think they have equal powers, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial branch?
Yeah. First of all, I would like to appreciate you for welcoming me on the platform. I thank you for the invitation granted me. For the issue of the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, in my belief or in my wisdom, I believe that they have equal powers. They have equal power. The reason is so because everyone has certain duties. Their job description are specified as per the law. The law provides that the judiciary, the executive enforces the law, the judiciary interprets the law, and the legislature make the law. Now, if you look at these three functions and their three responsibilities, no one has the right to do their French job. No one has, like for instance, the judiciary is there to interpret the law. The judiciary will not leave their functions and go enforce law. No, if you do that, you'll be breaking the chain of
command.
The chain of command. So for that, I say their powers are specified, and no one has equal power as per the law.
Oh, well, that's good. I like your answer. Well, my question, further question was, as things stand right now, you think that they have equal power, in your opinion? Nobody is more powerful than the other person?
In my opinion, because of the lack of merit system right now in the country, if you look at how the country is run, the system is right now, the system has spoiled right now. So you understand that you will not see that check and balance working easily. You will not
Right.
see that check and balance. The executive appear to be more powerful than the judiciary and the
And the
legislature. Why I
legislature.
say so? If it,
Mhm.
yeah, why I say so is that my case scenario come from the issue of cabinet Jana impeachment. If you
Mhm.
look at the processes that led to Justice Jana impeachment, it was all engineered by the executive, and because the executive now wanted the cabinet Jana to be in that position, they seen as a threat to the administration. They orchestrated his impeachment. So if you look at all the processes and the legal proceedings that led to cabinet challenge, even the rulings, that were condition attached, there was a condition attached. It was a recent cabinet general even took appeal to the
The
to
ECOWAS.
the ECOWAS code. The ECOWAS code, and if you look at the ECOWAS code demanded the Liberian government to even pay him some sum of
Yes.
money, for illegally taking of his duty.
Right.
So it is because of that I'm saying the executive appear to be more powerful, because anything the executive want right now for the two branches of government, they will get it.
Okay, so that's good. I like what you said. Thank you very much for that input, because it clarifies the importance of the checks and balances system in the Constitution.
Yeah.
It's there, but and then as you just said, when that happened, when Kabina Jana was stripped of his position as associate justice, which in your opinion and also many people's opinions, that the executive branch exercise more power over the judiciary and the judicial and the legislative branches of government, then that's when the people in whom the power is vested was supposed to say, oh no, it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be so and so, this and that. But because the civic education is not something that the government provides for the people, so they don't know their rights. Those rights are there. If people knew their rights, they would have stood up, and said, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. Why is the executive exerting so much power over the judiciary and the legislative branches of government? That could have been done. So you see, now that's why it's important that what we are doing, what Decorative Artists is doing, providing this kind of education, is very important, because then it will help us to exercise our rights as citizens of Liberia. And in that process, there will be more peace and reconciliation, with respect to the kinds of decisions that we make. So the article that I read in the thing signal talking about lawmakers are eating the country's wealth by Kanye, S. Kanye. That article signals the effective that there's a need for an effective checks and balances system in place to prevent one branch of the Liberian government from being more powerful than the other two branches, as you observe from the recent laws passed by the president's legislature. Now, what was this recent law that it passed? Let's go to that. Go one step further. You said one of the first things they said legislating self-centered laws that deny Liberian voters their rights. One of the first things that strikes you when you read or hear about the US $30,000 bonus that was allotted to Liberian lawmakers is self-centeredness. Self-centeredness, it shows its ugly head over the Capitol building. The way how they're making laws there, They're not making laws in the interest of the people that voted for them. They're making laws in their own interest. And this trend of lawmaking contradicts or questions the perception of lawmaking as a sacred duty, wherein lawmakers must go all out to advocate for their constituents. On the contrary, and irrespective of the global pandemic and the escalation of the cost of living, Liberian legislators recently passed laws that focus on providing direct and huge benefits for themselves, but to the disadvantage of the underserved of the Liberian society, the Liberian voters. A typical example is the 30,000 US bonus allotted to each Liberian legislator. It's a whopping total of $900,000 for all 30 senators and $2,190,000 for 73 members of the House of Representatives. So the two houses combined received during fiscal 2021 US 3.6 million for the so-called Legislative Engagement and Public Accessibility Fund, and 2.9 million or whatever it is for the other, legislator, the members of the House of Representatives. So now, what did they say? Let's listen to what they said. They said that this money was, the so-called bonus was intended for each lawmaker to carry out quote unquote legislative engagement and public accessibility activities in his or her respective constituency and county. So in this case, we need to ask the question that, because we say lawmakers must possess critical thinking skills. One, did the legislative branch explore other cheaper means of assisting Liberian lawmakers to actively engage in their constituents without spending 3.6 million United States dollars for an unspecified set of activities that are not develop-oriented, but based on pleasure and lavish spending? Two, what are the quote-unquote legislative engagement activities that might cost 30,000 United States dollars per lawmaker? These are things that the voters are sort of be asking. These are things that the citizens are sort of be asking. This was not debated among the citizens for them to agree to it. They didn't go back to their constituents and say, oh no, we're trying to pass a law so that we can get $30,000 to do this and do that. They never did that. If they did it, I personally didn't see any communication to that effect where the lawmakers, the 73 representatives and the 30 senators went back to the respective counties to ask for permission for them to get that kind of money, especially at this time when everybody's suffering. Additionally, three, does the Legislative and Public Accessibility Fund not drain the national budget of Liberia and deprive Liberian voters of much needed funds that can be used to improve the motor roads, health, and educational systems in Liberia? Was the checks and balances system used in this case to determine whether it was justified to award legislators bonuses, irrespective of the aftermath of the global pandemic and economic inflation in Liberia? What was the role of the executive branch and the judicial branch in the passage of this legislation as per the checks and balances system? So these kinds of questions are things that people need to ask, because if the legislators, like you said, oh, the executive was very, very powerful in seeing to it that Cabinet General, lose his position. What did the legislative body say? What did they say? But first of all, they instituted the impeachment proceeding. You see, they instituted impeachment proceeding, and when they did that for one of the justices, what did the other justices say? What did the chief justice and the justices say? Because they're in the judicial branch of government, they could have said, oh no, this thing is not supposed to be like that. According to the law, Cabinet General is not supposed to be, should not be impeached because of article this, and that, blah, blah. They're supposed to stand up too to talk, but they didn't talk as I understand. Because if they had spoken, we would have some kind of a position with respect to what the judicial branch of government position was on when it was being attacked by the executive branch and with the connivance of the legislative branch. Cyrus, what's your input on that?
As I said, in Africa, the law in most cases can be compromised.
Yeah.
Most especially in the case where the hello.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, I said, as I was saying, in most cases, the law can be compromised. That's one. The chain of check and balance also can be compromised.
Yes.
Most especially in the case where the executive feel that they need to accomplish certain aim and they need to accomplish certain aim. They feel that they get that power because the president is the one who presides over the executive, and he can use that power as president to change or perform certain actions in all the two branches.
Right.
In all the two branches. If you look at the way the House of Legislature and the House of Legislature and the House of Senate run their specific activities when it comes to making the laws.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, when it comes to making the laws or when it comes to lawmaking proceedings, the executive most often compromise that decision with some form of influence.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the current law that talked about drugs, that talk about making drugs available crime, or that law has stayed in the House. The lower house are passing already, but the upper house now is refusing to concord with the lower house decision up to now that it has dragged, only because the executive not want that technical law to be passed. They have used their influence now to delay that technical law. So up to now, it has been dragging for over the past years. Now, these are some of the cases that can happen when it comes to breaking the chain of check and balance in the government, more especially when it comes to the three branches performing their actions. Like I said, the executive appears to be more powerful because they always influence both the judiciary and the legislature decision.
Yeah, no, that's so. What I was talking about, is something like the $30,000 stuff. This is a country that has just come from out of war. There's no money, whatever it is. But you are apart from thousands of dollars that you pay these lawmakers, you are giving them a bonus of $30,000 each. You're not even talking about maybe 5,000 or something like that, but you say 30,000, and that passed without any kind of input by the people.
For the $30,000, that was dispersed among the House of Legislature and the House of Senate, the Liberian people see as a waste of money. That's one. Because if you look at their salary, already by law, they have some money allotted to them for agriculture break, wherein they can use their time to meet up to meet their constituent, to meet the people in that district or in that constituent, to talk to them on what is unfolding in their favorite districts and constituent. Have town hall meeting, have different administrative meeting, talk to the people, talk to community dwellers, talk to leaders in the community. The news, nobody news that agriculture break to go and talk to their constituent. Now, if that money, then you're giving an additional, that money is already set aside. Because each time they go for agriculture break, there's a specific money that can be allotted to them to go exercise their economic functions. So another additional money coming to add up to that already existing money. So for us, we are the Liberian people who give them their power, who saw as a waste of money and misdirecting common fund. That money could be used to build health facilities.
Yeah, but then what was done? You know, what was done to stop it? Because they didn't stop. Nobody stopped it. They went ahead and did it.
Yeah, in Labrador, we get a tendency where people can only talk. There's a tendency where people will talk for 2-3 days and the things will get quiet. And you're not hear it happening. So usually the government officials use that against the voters or the electors. Most often things will come up. Most often things will come to the street corners, sharp on university campuses, and other areas. At the end of the day, after a few times, you will never hear that come up again. So over the past time, when the issue of 30,000 came up, it were raised all in the newspaper. The people took up the debate in newspaper, on radio stations, even on social media. People took up the debate. They say that the money was misappropriated, they were misused. In fact, they were wasting some money, and there was no need to get lawmakers 30,000. The debate started. All lawmakers came in. They started. They according to them, they refused. They elect Darius Taylor. He said he didn't receive the money. He admitted that, oh yeah, the money came up, but he didn't receive it. The guy called back to came up. He said, yes, the money came up, but for me, I received my own. There were other people who came up at the time. So just cause there was no specific action that came up from the angle of the electorate or from the general public, whether through the means of protest or what through the means of whatever means, but it was only discussed between the citizens.
Well, thank you very much for that. You know, because that kind of supports, you know, what we're saying, because, you know, from another perspective, it is my belief, personal belief, that Liberian lawmakers can better engage and have greater public access to their respective constituencies if the legislative engagement and public accessibility funds were invested in improving roads leading to their respective constituencies, and by spending some of the funds to develop and provide for their constituents better clinics, hospitals, schools, and supplies to manage and maintain better hospitals, schools, and motor roads in their respective counties. The wise use of natural and mineral resources must be utilized to the fullest to bring relief to the Liberian people and to develop Liberia. Additionally, the $30,000 US $30,000 bonus is outside of the take-home salaries and official benefits of members of the National Legislature of Liberia. And you just said that too, also, Cyrus. Further, in the 2022 budget, the legislature appropriated $64.3 million to include $3.6 million for the so-called Legislative Engagement and Public Accessibility Fund to purchase new official vehicles, which will cost $4.6 million, operational expenses that will cost $18.7 million, gas for vehicles will cost $3.1 million in a small country where they're not even going up and down the place that much. They don't even have the roads to go up and down. They're paying for gas, $3.1 million for 103 people. And legislative committee hearings, $729,000. The number of allowances received differs across ranks, with the speaker getting $2 million. Deputy Speaker gets $1.5 million. Senate Pro Tempore gets $2.1 million, etc. And this was from the New Dawn September 14, 2022 publication. So you can see why we are where we are with respect to, you know, the things that go on. So we're critically looking at the three branches of government and look at what we see from our analysis of the legislative branch, what they alone have done. They alone getting all that amount of money. Do you know what $3.some million can do for the educational system? Do you know what the other thing again said? What it said, let me go right back here a small bit. Come back here. Do you know what $4.6 million that it's using for operational expenses? I mean, for vehicles, what $4.6 million can do for one of the highways? You know, or speaker, one person, the speaker is getting $2 million, $2 million United States dollars, one person. You know what $2 million can do for the tourism industry of Liberia? So you see, so that's where the problem is. That's where the issue is with respect to this thing. So as we continue to provide the civic education for you, it is intended for you to know how your government runs, what your role should be. Your role should not just be where people just dump things on you as citizens. That's not your role. Your role, you are the bosses of these people that are using you as tools. The people, the electorate, the voters are the bosses. You put them there. So why are you putting people there that are making you to suffer, and you're crying, and every day you're calling abroad and asking people to provide things for you, when the people that are making you to suffer are right before your faces and you're not addressing them? You know, so that's where we are. Now we've come to the conclusion of this episode 8, and the conclusion here is that, critically speaking, the overall figure used to support just one branch of government speaks of the need for the activation of the system of checks and balances in the day-to-day operations of the Liberian government. In the case where the legislative branch made some unreasonable demands, both the executive and judicial branches should have exercised their equal rights in resolving the matter executively and judicially through the process of checks and balances. Executively, the president has executive powers. He can use his discretion and veto the bill sponsoring the demands of the legislature when submitted on his desk on grounds that the present financial circumstances of Liberia warrants that we do not spend public funds lavishly and without development purpose for Liberia and Liberians. That's one thing that the president could have said to him. Look, I appreciate the fact that you guys want to have your legislative engagement and all of that, but you know, given the situation in the country, you know, I will not sign that bill, you know, because you know it will hamper the development, you know, of my government. My government needs that money to build better schools, to fix the roads and do this and that. And I would like to advise that you do that. The executive branch can do that if it uses that, you know, or checks and balances, you know, or mechanism, you know, to address that issue. Also, the chief executive could have requested that a portion of the overall budget go towards improving the education and healthcare systems in the legislators' respective counties. If you say, look, all this money I'm going to give you 30,000. Why don't I give you like maybe 2,000 and the 28,000? We take it and we improve the schools and things and the hospitals and the roads in your area, in your constituency where you go, because you go in there, the place not paid. When it rains, you can't go anywhere. So why don't we use some of that money? It could be done. That could be done if you have leaders who are patriotic, who focus on the needs of the constituents, on the needs of the people, and not on their own personal needs. That could happen. The judicial branch could have come up too with a legal argument to tie the demand made by the legislative branch to conflict of interest, because some of that thing is pure conflict of interest, to extortion. You are extorting the people $30,000 just for you to have legislative engagement. Then how many engagement sessions will you have with the people anyway? So in the places you can't go to them because there are no roads. So why $30,000? Nobody asked that question. The judiciary can also provide legal reasons why at this time in our nation's history, people who are benefiting from the sweat of the Liberian people must learn to sacrifice just like the way the bulk of Liberians are doing to restore peace and sanity to Liberia. So that's one of the reasons why we're not getting the peace that we need, because there's too much selfishness going on. People are too concerned about themselves and not concerned about the overall good of the country, the Republic of Liberia, that is sucking, sucking the blood of the country, all the resources and all of that. And this brings us to the end of our discussion for today on episode 8. In the next episode, which will be episode 9, we will discuss the executive branch of the Liberian government and how it functions and interfaces with the other two branches of the Liberian government. Cyrus, you got anything final to say before we close? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. He's not on now. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for listening to this program. This has been another edition of DATI's Civic and Peace Education Audiovisual Series. And I am your presenter, Dr. Joseph Tomungalate Baba Senior, Executive Director and founder of Decanty Artists Theater Incorporated. We thank you so much for listening to this program. And we also want to thank Cyrus, who took up his time, Cyrus Statesman, Cyrus Blinwan, for taking up his time to participate in this episode tonight. We hope that other DATI peace advocates will take advantage of the opportunity to speak up, and also share their views regarding, the responsibilities of the citizens, the civic responsibilities of Liberians in conducting their own national affairs, and also ensuring that peace, unity, and safety, security, prevail in post-war Liberian society. Again, this is your presenter, Dr. Joseph Tomungalate Baba Senior, Executive Director and founder of Decanty Artists Theater Incorporated, saying goodbye for now. And thank you so much for your support. Bye-bye.